It can be incredibly frustrating when you're creating content for social media every single day, but that content you are creating just doesn't seem to be performing. If your content isn't performing, you need to take a serious step back and reevaluate what you are currently doing within your content strategy. And that is why in today's video, I'm going to be discussing some of the points as to why your content may be underperforming. Hi guys, my name is Ethan Bridge. I'm host of the Social Media Marketing School podcast and the guy behind the Instagram page at The Marketing Ethan. Today, I'm going to be talking through some points as to why your content may be underperforming. It can be for many different reasons. Some of these might apply to you, some of them don't. But I implore that you must be honest to yourself about your content. Don't look at it and go, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Be brutal with yourself. Have a friend evaluate this for you as well. Other content creators. Be harsh with the way you critique your content, because at the end of the day, you are kind of biased towards your own content. But it's not you who's consuming it, it's other people. So with all of the points I mentioned in today's episode, go and get someone else to do the critiquing for you. Or if you're comfortable with being honest with yourself about your content, fine. But without any further ado, let's dive into the first point. Point number 1, is your content catering to the needs and wants of your audience? If it's not, that is probably the biggest reason as to why it's underperforming. At the end of the day, the content you produce is for others. It's not for you. Yes, I hope you've picked a niche that you actually enjoy, because then every piece of content you create, you should enjoy creating regardless of whether it is towards the needs and wants of your audience or not. But if you aren't catering to the needs and wants of your audience, then your content's essentially useless. It means nothing. So you need to be finding out what content your audience wants to consume. You need to be answering their problems. You need to be getting them on track to where they want to be. People will either follow you because you entertain them or you educate them. And within the niche I'm in social media marketing, I teach people, I educate. So they are at point A, I am at point B. They follow me because they want to bridge the gap between point A and point B so they can be at the point where I'm at. So if I am not helping them bridge that gap between point A and point B with my content, then I'm doing it all wrong. So I need to make sure that I am catering to the needs and the wants of my audience. Now you might be thinking, how on earth do I do that? Ask them. It really is that simple. Go over to your Instagram stories, put up a poll, put up a question. What content do you want to see from me? It's as simple as that. People will then give you their response. Or, what sort of things are you struggling with social media marketing? Every single response that people give is a content idea. Quora is another great one actually. Head over to Quora and in the search bar, just search your niche, social media marketing. And because Quora is a Q&A platform, people ask questions about specific niches. Now, some questions are much more popular than others on Quora, so if you can see there are similar questions coming up time and time again on a specific niche, and if that niche is your niche, then you can safely assume that that question being asked there is something that a lot of people have a problem with. So it's likely that your followers over on Instagram or whatever social media platform you're posting on are also going to be having that problem. So search Quora for more content ideas, or just ask your own audience. Because if you aren't catering to the needs and wants of your audience, your content is useless. Simple as that. So that was tip number 1. Moving on to tip number 2. As a creator, it is your job to present your content in a way that is easily consumable by your audience. Yes, the value of your content comes first. Hands down, the value is everything. But if you aren't presenting that value in an easy way to consume, you're making it incredibly difficult for your followers. So it is important that you do scrub up on your design skills. You do scrub up on your copywriting. It's as simple as that. It doesn't have to be complicated to be impressive. Some of my favorite creators, with their carousels, they won't have any fancy designs whatsoever. They will just have a line of text on a white background. That is it. But because it is so simple and the copywriting and storytelling within that one sentence flows so well throughout the carousel, it works incredibly well. So it just goes to show that you don't have to have incredible design skills to make your content easy to consume and aesthetically pleasing. Simple is sometimes best. Have a lot of white space. White space is area around your text so you are giving your value point enough room to breathe and so people can focus on that main point of your post. If you've got too much going on, you are distracting your audience from the main value. If they aren't consuming the value, it's going to underperform. Or if you are presenting it in a way where you have far too much text, you are literally making people read what seems like a chapter from a Harry Potter book when they read your content, they are not going to finish it. They are not going to consume the whole thing. So you need to make sure that your copywriting is to a high level. You want to make sure you are getting your message across in the easiest and quickest way possible so that it is easy for your audience to consume. This is where a lot of people will not be harsh with themselves, because some people will think, okay, this looks great. But what you need to do is you need to ask yourself the question and be honest, would I consume this content myself? If the answer is no, do not post it, because if you won't consume it, why do you expect someone else to? It's one of the main ways I actually critique my content, because I consume a lot of content on Instagram. So I know what standard I'm having to hold myself to if I want to outperform other creators. So I need to ask myself that question honestly. Would I actually consume this piece of content that I've just created? If it's yes, fine, post it. If it's no, I am back to the drawing board and I'm starting again until it is at the point where I'd actually want to consume it myself. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the prettiest post in the world. It just has to be consumable and get across the message you want to get across. If you aren't showing your content in a way that is easily consumable, people won't consume it. They'll scroll past. Simple as that. So make sure you are scrubbing up on your copywriting skills and that you are presenting your message in a way that is easy to consume. Simple as that. If you can do that, you will see a dramatic increase in your post's performance. Moving on to tip number 3. This is a very simple one, and one you can add to your content with just one sentence, and that is having a call to action. A call to action is essentially telling people to do something. If you want your post to perform well, you obviously want to focus on the amount of engagement you are getting. The engagement is what tells the Instagram algorithm whether your post is performing well. If your post is performing well and it's keeping people on the platform, it will be pushed on hashtags, it will be pushed to the explore page. Because if your piece of content is keeping people on the platform, that means the algorithm can show more ads. The more ads it can show, the more it can charge its advertisers. The more it can charge its advertisers, the more money they make. So you want to be increasing the amount of engagement you are getting on your post. How do you do that? You tell people to. How do you tell people to? You have a call to action. If you don't have a call to action on your post, people aren't going to do what you want them to do. It's as simple as that. I made a previous episode where I spoke about how to get more comments on your post. This is a brilliant episode. Go and listen to that because it coincides quite well with this point. And I do go into the call to action in quite some detail there as well. But if you tell people to comment or tell people to save, they are much more likely to. So if you are looking at your post performance at the moment and going, I'm not really getting many comments at the moment. I'm not really getting many shares or saves, or why aren't people having conversations? You need to ask yourself the question, am I actually telling them to? Because if you don't tell them to, they're not going to. But you can solve that by having that call to action. That call to action is going to tell people to do something. If you tell them to do something, they are much more likely to. So a very, very simple point to make your post perform better. Have a call to action, tell people what they need to do. Moving on to point number 4. Is your post grabbing attention? This is a huge one. There was actually a study done by Microsoft where they concluded that the average attention span of a human is 8 seconds. That means you have roughly 3 to 5 seconds to grab the attention of someone scrolling through Instagram. That is not long at all. Think of it this way. 1, 2, 3. If you haven't grabbed the attention in that time, you've got no chance. So how do you grab attention? You have a really, really compelling headline. That's if you have a carousel. If you have a single image post, you need to make sure it's really aesthetically pleasing. grabs people as they're scrolling through their feed. Or if you have a video, those first 3 seconds, they are everything. A video is obviously a much longer piece of content that people are going to have to consume. So you need to get them hooked within those first 3 seconds. Otherwise, they're not going to invest their time for the rest of the video. So a headline for a carousel needs to be spot on. Your title needs to be well thought of, something that's going to grab attention. 50 amazing ideas. This screams to someone that you've got so much value packed in that post, and the word amazing pops out on the screen. It needs to be bold. Have a face or something on your headline. I use my own stock images of myself. I don't use something from FreePic or another free stock image website. I make sure I have my own stock images. I take my own photos. Not only does that add to my personal branding, it makes my posts stand out a bit, because not many creators actually do that with their content, especially in my niche. So when people are scrolling through the feed and they see my face, they obviously know that that piece of content is from me. So that, coupled with a strong title, which is in bold and screams at people essentially, is going to grab attention. If you've got a video, take a 3-second cut of the best part of that video and put it at the very beginning. Having a highlight from your video at the very beginning is going to make people want to listen, so that they can get to that point, so they can consume that value. It's a little hack I like to use. And if you're creating that single image, your graphics have to be on point. Now, they don't have to be fancy, they just need to be eye-catching and catch that attention. Because if you aren't catching that attention within the first 3 to 5 seconds, your content isn't going to be consumed. If your content isn't consumed, nobody's going to engage with it. If nobody engages with it, it's going to underperform. It's not rocket science. So make sure you are grabbing attention with your post. If you don't, it will underperform. And the final point I want to make is the fact that you may not have your own engagement strategy. If you aren't engaging with other people, then you can't expect to receive that engagement yourself. You can't expect to receive if you don't give in the first place. This is something I tell everyone. So you need to make sure you yourself have a compelling engagement strategy. Your engagement strategy, especially when you first start on Instagram, is arguably the most important thing. Nobody knows who you are. The algorithm doesn't know who you are. So nobody is just going to randomly stumble across your content. It doesn't work like that. You have to seek out your audience. How do you do that? You go and engage for 3 hours a day. I've spoken about engagement strategies a ton on this podcast. Make sure you go back and listen to my episode on my 3 favorite engagement strategies. That's the perfect one to go and listen to. But if you aren't engaging with other people yourself, then nobody is actually going to come and engage with yours. Before you post a piece of content, go and engage for 30 minutes and just make people aware you're online. If you are engaging with them and they are replying to you within their comments, when you post your piece of content, it's likely that it's going to go to the top of their feed because you have recently been engaging with this individual. It's just a way the Instagram algorithm works. It's not going to happen every time, but it increases the likelihood. But if you are engaging with a lot of people, they are likely to give you that engagement in return. So you do need to be engaging as much as possible. Having that engagement strategy is vital. Responding to comments, but encouraging conversation within your comment section. Do not close the conversation as soon as someone comments. Ask them a question, get them to comment again. That's going to increase the amount of engagement on your post, which is going to coincide with the algorithm, like I mentioned earlier, and it's much more likely that your post is going to go viral. It's a simple equation when you look at it that way. So if you aren't engaging with other creators at the moment, if you do not have a solid engagement strategy, then that is going to be one of the main reasons why your content is underperforming. Have a serious look at what you're doing with regards to engagement on Instagram. If you're not doing any, start immediately. Listen to my episode on my 3 favorite engagement strategies. Pick your favorite from that and start. You need to be engaging for at least 3 hours a day. Obviously, as you get further and further down the line and you begin to grow organically, you can begin to focus on different aspects. But until you get to that point, you can't afford to not engage because you aren't going to grow if you don't. So, final point, make sure you have an engagement strategy in place. That engagement strategy is going to encourage people to comment on your content, which in turn is going to make it perform better. And that wraps up my key points as to why your content may be currently underperforming and how you can rectify just that. And that does wrap up today's video. And I just want to thank you all for tuning in. As you can see, I am a very, very new creator here on YouTube. So every little helps when it comes to this channel. So I'd really, really appreciate if you hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and turned on post notifications. That way you'll never miss an episode when I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But I also wanted to let you guys know that this is actually part of my Social Media Marketing School podcast series. You can subscribe to that on pretty much any podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it, and the audio version of the podcast is the place to be. I've released the episodes a couple of days earlier on the audio platforms and then released the video version, which you are watching now on YouTube, a couple of days later. So if you want to consume this content a little bit sooner, make sure you are subscribing on the audio version of the podcast. If you prefer the video, if you prefer seeing me talking to you, stick here on YouTube, but it's completely up to you. But I just want to finish off by saying, if you have made it to this point in the video, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you in the next one.